Good morning to both fake guitar players like me and any real guitar players out there. I was doing my normal gear acquisition syndrome duties, crawling off in some deep rabbit hole on the internet to look at some very esoteric minutia of how a player was getting tone from decades ago that you know how we do. And what I'm going to talk about is not a novel concept by any means. You see it all the time, how the player is the most important part of the equation, and the gear, while obviously does have an important part to give that player the vehicle to fully realize his expression on the guitar, how different and varied that can be, and it largely illustrates the importance of a player. I was thinking about really my two favorite lead solo tones, whatever you want to call them, and Eric Johnson and Alan Holdsworth. That's kind of what I go after, so somewhere in between those two. And the weak link there is usually the execution on the guitar if I'm not getting where I want to be. And when I break those tones down, there are similar qualities. Both are kind of have that thick violinish thing going that doesn't have a lot of string attack, and they're both very non-guitar sounding almost. They lack a lot of the definitive things you hear with a distorted guitar tone as far as the attack and transients and stuff like that, and kind of a smooth compression generated by the distortion of each player, though the tones are obviously very different too, but they have some similarities. And then that takes my mind to how did those players that achieve those tones that have always been benchmarks for me, what was their method of getting there? And when you look at Holdsworth and Eric Johnson, they couldn't have been any more different as far as their approach to gear. You have Eric Johnson, vintage Marshalls, other tube amps worked in there. He's pretty much, with the exception of some smaller pieces, been using the same gear since we first were blessed to hear him play. He's gonna have a fuzz face, the tube driver tone, and a crunchy Marshall, and then a lead Marshall that the tube driver goes to. He's done different things as far as creating his tape echo. He was a big proponent of using the old tape machines and the preamp for a long time, and I think finally there are pedals that are good enough where he doesn't have to drag the tape machine out anymore. But he is also very particular. He's known for that, like using certain batteries on the fuzz face, and I remember he used to have the tube driver like raised up off the board on its own little platform, which that was probably a noise thing because that is a noisy pedal. But he's known for being very particular, and it whatever his approach is works. His tone's awesome. And then of course he's got the clean tones. It's going to be a Fender Twins or some variation thereof, running stereo with the ability to put the stereo chorus on it and all that. So you got EJ using very vintage, old school tube amps and certain pedals, really. And then you switch to Holsworth. That was a poor Holsworth imitation, and his playing is alien, and so his approach is totally different. I think most of the later tones that we best associate with some of Alan's best work, they were using the digital Yamaha stuff to the point where he was using the DG amps and the DG. It's an early digital actually amp simulation that doesn't model any particular amp but has some really good sounds, and you can get in the ballpark of that liquid lead sound Alan used fairly easily with that unit. And then he used all these different rack delays for a while until Yamaha made the UD stomp, which is kind of a rare pedal, and prices of it show, but it allows I'm wanting to say is it 8? I can't remember, but 8 different delays to all be processed in parallel at the same time, where you would theoretically make each one different enough to give you different modulations and all that. It's part of that beautiful sound he uses clean a lot of the times, and he used a volume pedal to kind of swell into that sometimes he didn't. And then his distortion tones were coming from the Yamaha digital amp modeling, and then they later made the UD stomps, where basically those had the same type of amp modeling and distortion sounds, and they could do the UD stomp thing. So he would live have like like 4, 5, 6, I don't know, UD stomps all laid out as his amp sounds, and kind of run that into a volume pedal, and he would hit one for his clean sound with a bunch of delay and stuff, and hit another one for his solo tone, and however many tones he used. Basically, he had a Yamaha UD stomp for each one, and that is so much different than what Eric Johnson does. So what can I take away from my two favorite lead tone players having a totally opposite approach from each other to get sounds that resonate with me because of the similarities? The takeaway is I need to quit worrying about the minutia of gear I'm using, and use that time to practice with the hope that I can get anywhere, even steps forward. Not because I'm not going to be that caliber of player. Those guys are best in the world at what they do. And as a fake guitar player that plays in his bedroom, I can only hope to take small steps forward to get my playing to the point where I can maybe sound like I've listened to an Alan Holdsworth record, or maybe sound like I've seen the video of EJ playing live in Austin at least once. And that's it. It's fun to dive deep down the gear rabbit hole. It's part of the hobby. It is something that can give you that quick satisfaction. But in the end, it is about the player. And like I said, that's not some kind of new revelation. That's something you can read on any guitar message board, that the player is the most important ingredient. But I think about what I'm spending my time on, if I find myself on a archived GeoCities website that tells me what Alan used to record whatever song from whatever album, I'm probably not spending valuable time that's going to add to what I do as a guitar player. Definitely something to think about. And all that being said, I do want to throw in, because I'm a gear nerd. Yeah, Alan did use other amps and tube amps, and he used some Mesa Boogie stuff for a while. I know in his recording rack pictures I've seen, he had the Soldano preamp, so he used other stuff, and of course, that's not even including the all the Syntax stuff he recorded. Totally different rabbit hole there that I'm not fooling with that. I've got a MIDI controller keyboard that I can at least figure out chords and whatnot on for messing around with recording. But EJ, for the most part, you may see him play a 335, or I'm sure he may throw in a Les Paul or something on some recordings, but Strat and vintage tube amps and pedals, Holsworth, of course, he really got into the headless guitar thing with Steinbergers, and although he didn't always play a headless guitar, interesting. Ugh, can't talk this morning. Funny enough, Kiesel just came out with the non-headless Holsworth again, the Fat Boy that hadn't been made for years, and but Alan was using the Laps. The Laps guitar, or is that the name of the guy that built it? Something like that. And another builder, Canton, and then of course he had the his signature series, the headless Yamaha. The headless Carvin, and eventually Kiesel, up until we lost him. And even the guitars are different. Takeaways still the same. I can get a Strat, I can get a tube driver, I can dial in something martially sounding, and the barrier from me playing that and sounding like Eric Johnson is me. And I've got the Yamaha DG stuff, and I've got the Alan Holsworth signature guitar. I think that's one I've never broke out on one of these videos. I'll have to do that sometime. It's a cool guitar. But once again, you're not going to hear Alan Holsworth when I do. And the most important variable there is me and how I can develop. And never going to be the caliber of players those guys, but I can spend more intentional practice time to take steps in the right direction towards that. And to restate my takeaway, if I'm not doing that and I'm delving into gear minutia, I am not doing what's really gonna be important to improving me as a player to where I want to be. Just some thoughts, nothing new and exciting that'll knock you out of your chair, but a different take and a good illustration of something that most good guitar players already know. It's the player is way more important than the gear. Hope you enjoyed this installment of Early Morning Guitar Vacation. And until the next time, you enjoy your guitar vacation. Later.